I was totally interrupted in the heat of the moment. Hey everyone, hi, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be talking about Heated Rivalry by Rachel Reid, and I'm really excited to talk to you about this book. Mostly I'm excited about all of the context and what fun it's been having read this book. And we'll get into that storytime style in the meat of the video. If you're new to my channel, know, and it will become extremely clear, that I don't read this kind of thing very often. It was kind of a shock to the system for those around me who are familiar with my reading taste in any capacity. that this is very unusual. So I'm excited to give you some context to maybe put a smile on your face and yeah, just to hang out for a little while talking about Heated Rivalry by Rachel Reid. And so if you're not yet subscribed, maybe think about doing so. Mostly so excited that we're hanging out. And without any further rambling on, let's go ahead and get into the meat of this video. So what category of book is Heated Rivalry by Rachel Reid? Hilariously, there are several different covers of this book, and they give off very different vibes. This cover right here is probably the closest to the actual vibe of the book, because Heated Rivalry is a hockey romance. It's a queer hockey romance. Enemies to lovers, and it is steamy. It is super, super steamy. So that's what Heated Rivalry is. It is the second book of a larger series that Rachel Reid has written, and I'll get more into the feedback I've gotten about the series. So how did I hear about this book? So I was on a creator event. I was at a creator retreat in New York, and I was sitting around with a handful of creators. It was after dinner, and we all started talking about what kind of books we've been reading. And the thing that gets me excited about reading is when somebody is enthusiastically talking about their own reading. And there's zero pressure, zero like recommendation angle towards me. They're literally just talking almost for their own pleasure about a book or a book series or a kind of book. So one of the creators was going on and on in her own joyful way, which was such a delight, by the way, of all of these hockey romances that she's been reading. She got into why she's been enjoying these queer hockey romances and how some of them are super steamy and very explicit. It was really fun to watch her sort of nerd out on this random genre of reading that I have no experience in. And she was saying that she and another creator on this trip have been like reading these books nonstop. I was interrupted and now I'm back. So it was so fascinating listening to somebody talk enthusiastically of the pros and cons of queer hockey romance, this whole genre of books that this reader had clearly been reading a lot from. And she was weighing out the pros and cons and really thinking about what was working for her and why, and you know, why it was so appealing and interesting. And of course, we finally got to the moment, which is, well, is there anything good in this genre? Should we read anything from this genre? And this person, this creator, sat back a moment and thought, and she was like, well, there's one book that's actually really good. There's like an actually good book, and you can start there, but everything after that is going to go way downhill. So if you start there, it might be the only book worth your time. And, you know, well, after that, it might, you know, you might just be, it might be bust, you know, like that's it. You read the best and there's nothing more to discover. And so she mentioned Heated Rivalry by Rachel Reid. She was like, even though it's the second book in a series, skip the first one, it's garbage. Or I don't know if that was exactly her words, but it was like, skip the first one, just read the second one. If you like it, you can possibly go on to the sixth book, which uses the same central characters, but puts them in a different situation. And it's not as good as Heated Rivalry, but it might be worth our time. So meanwhile, we're all like hanging on this creator's every word, laughing, joking with her. And I was like, actually, I can put in a request with a friend who often sends me Kindle books, and I can put in a request with him. And as I said that, the fan of this hockey romance, you know, she was so sweet. She was like, just so you know, it's very explicit. It's like, you know, she didn't quite use these words, but she was like, it's not for the faint of heart. And I was like, I'm just going to put in a request. So I, you know, emailed my Kindle friend, my friend who gives me Kindle books, and I was like, hey, do you possibly have this book? And if you do, can you send it my way if it's not in any trouble? And he was like, I do have it. I do have it. And just so you know, it's a very explicit romance. Like, it's a very explicit hockey romance, like queer hockey romance. And I read it aloud. I read that aloud at the table. Sorry, friend, if you're watching this. but it was sort of proving all around me from the creator and then now my friend who sent me the Kindle book that this is really not my genre. And everyone around me is sort of being like, be careful, Shelley, or like, just so you know what you're walking into. I think everybody was just wanting me to walk into the book with my eyes wide open, that I'm not just going to be blindsided or anything like that. And so I had several people looking out for me. So I got the book and I started reading it. And so essentially what the book is about is that it opens with an extremely steamy scene, okay? Like, if you want to know what the book is actually about, the first 4 pages will tell you everything of what is to come, okay? The plot line is that there are hockey stars. We have Shane on one team and Ilya on the other. They're rival hockey players, and they're on rivalry teams, and they are rivals themselves. So they talk junk to each other on the ice. I'm like, I don't know hockey from hockey, like on the court. No. So on the ice, they like talk junk to each other. They have a very like public enemy vibe. Like they say sort of snarky things about each other to each other so that they have a sound bite. So like the news or the sports reporting place has a sound bite so they can play like what Ilya said about Shane and then what Shane says about Ilya. And meanwhile, so we get this scene where we know that Ilya and Shane are actually lovers, you know? And that's how it opens, right? So it's like, you know this, and then that takes place in like present day, and then you go back in time, like 8 years or 10 years, something like that. And you realize that how they started to be in this relationship and why it has ended up in the way that it has. And so in some ways it was funny in that, like, I don't know, it was predictable and not surprising, and there was just a lot of cheekiness. It was cheeky in many ways, literally and metaphorically. And you see that, you know, Shane plays this character of somebody who is very he comes from like a great family and is very talented and had a very stable upbringing, all-American, like good old boy. No, that has a different connotation. He has like an all-American, like hockey star, you know, but like football player kind of thing. But, you know, just has this charm to him. And then you have Ilya. And Ilya is a Russian who comes from a more complicated past. There's a brokenness to him, and he really thrives off of being hated. He loves that people like think he's a jerk, and he like can like skate circles around everybody and is the best on ice and is incredibly competitive with Shane, partly because they are opposites in their home life and in their public appearance, but also because they're just like, it's like Ilya represents the evil, like almost like not evil, that's not like the bad boy, and Shane represents like this like glowing angel, and so there's like that tension as well, and then they're actually competitive with each other when it comes to being on ice and in scoring and their goals. It's like they both want to be, the all-star player, the rookie player of the year, all this stuff. And so at every juncture in their career, they are at a game, and that game really matters because it's going to, in some ways, reveal who is the better player. Whether it be, the person that everybody loves to hate or the person that everybody loves to love, and so you have this public tension, but behind the scenes, like, they are addicted to each other, and they are just like, they just want to be with each other, and it takes a while for their emotional relationship to develop with one another, and that is really where the plot starts to go. So they grow in their own ways, but what I think is the most satisfying is the fact that they grow in this way where they are letting down their guard and actually emotionally connecting with each other, because it isn't this emotional risk, both because publicly they are enemies, and they are on rivalry teams, but also like they are, they have the stereotype of like they're men, and men are not supposed to be like in touch with their feelings or like share that side of themselves. And so as a reader, you're waiting for, or like you're reading for this moment where things are going to be finally revealed, and the thing that needs to be said is actually said, right? And amid it all, there are like steamy, like hot, explicit, very intense scenes that I was very captured by. So I'll get into my final thoughts about how I, reading this book, but there's a little more to wade through. So as I'm reading this, I put online that I was reading this book, and a friend of mine who I hadn't talked to in quite some time texted me and was like, "I'm really surprised that you're reading this." And I was like, "You and me both, okay?" I joked around saying, maybe I am in a new reading era where I read this kind of thing, because it is actual garbage, but like the best kind. I think in many ways it is very aware of the fact that it is garbage, which is the kind of garbage that I like to read. I don't think Rachel Reid is out there thinking that she wrote a masterpiece. I think she knows exactly what she's doing, with what she's writing, and I think that she's doing a pretty good job, at least with this book, considering it's like the highest of the high of these like queer hockey romances out there, according to other hockey romance experts, okay? So that was funny. So it's like the reaction that people are garnering from me reading this book is hilarious to me. Like I'm just like, I'm sort of embarrassed, but also I'm just like, I don't know what to say. Sometimes I read way outside my comfort zone, okay? And I also had gotten, I told this group text with all of the creators that went to the retreat. We were all in this group text, and I said, "Hey guys, I did finish reading Heated Rivalry by Rachel Reid." And one of the persons who was an expert in this genre was like, and what did you think? And so what did I think? I think that it was so much fun as escapist literature, and considering that it's like the best of the best, it's still pretty like low quality. But I didn't dislike it, and I didn't dislike the experience that I had with it. It was fun and light and very much taking me outside of my daily life, and taking me into the world of this book, even though it was incredibly spicy, which is not normally my thing. And so I ended up telling a version of this to one of the queer hockey romance experts. And I was like, so if you can recommend me some more books, what would you recommend in this genre? So she recommended him, I think, by Sandra Bowen, I think. So I'll actually read it off to you so I know for sure. And that way, if you have already read Heated Rivalry, you know where to go as well, you know? Or if you're like, this is going to be my new genre. Like, Shelley, you've inspired me not only to read outside my comfort zone, but to try a new thing. And this is going to be my thing. And I, too, am going to be an expert in this thing. So here we go. So in terms of further reading, we have Him and Us, which is a 2-book series by Serena Brown. We also have Egotistical Puck Boy. That's right, Egotistical Puck Boy. Okay, it's like, y'all, I'm embarrassed saying that out loud. Okay, and we have the 6th book in this Heated Rivalry, business. If I wanted to continue with those same characters. Which I'm not really interested in the other books in the series. Like, I just want to read the good stuff, because even the good stuff is still kind of, it's cheeky fun, okay? Very cheeky fun. So, and also, like, as a little addendum, Ted, when I was telling him what I was reading, he was like, why hockey? And I was like, I don't know. Maybe because it's, like, a very masculine contact sport. Maybe. And also, like, I don't know anything about hockey, so Rachel Reid can write it in any kind of way, and I won't know how they keep score or what the rules are or anything like that. Whereas, like, I actually know a little bit about football, and I know a little bit more about baseball. And so if somebody was writing about those games and got some details wrong, I think it would really pull me out of the story, and I would be like, oh. But since I don't know anything about hockey, I'm like, you could say whatever about it, and I'll just gobble it up with a spoon. Maybe you know why hockey. I don't know. So that is my final thought at the end of this video. But yeah, it's been hilarious, okay? So I am reading non-hockey things right now. I'm not saying it's over between me and hockey romance. Maybe it's the beginning of something. I can't even say something great. It might be the beginning of something. But yeah, just excited to share something randomly really joyful with you. And a very sort of hilarious experience, considering how everyone took the news that I was reading this particular book. So thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for spending this time with me. I appreciate you immensely. And I hope to see you all in my next one.